All right, we're halfway through 2026, and here is 6 months worth of actual data because what you're reading online in newspapers, whoever still reads newspapers, and what's actually happening on the ground are probably two different things. So I'm going to get my giant head out of the way, and that way we can actually zoom in on some of the data as we go. We'll start from a larger perspective, the entirety of the actual Charleston area, and I'm going to zoom in on some of the submarkets from Mount Pleasant to Johns Island and kind of everything in between. The fun part is, if you don't want to hear me go through all of those, you can skip ahead in the chapters below. So this will be your mid-year Charleston market read from me, Gentry Todd Group here at Compass in Charleston. So the big read. Let's take a quick look at these monthly indicators. Nationally, everything is nearly flat. U.S. existing home sales were up 0.2% month over month, but essentially flat year over year per the National Association of Realtors. And Charleston, fortunately, isn't the national market because pending sales in Charleston tried in MLS were actually up 18.5% year over year. May through June, single-family closings in Charleston County were up 25% year over year. Condos and townhouses up 47%. So if there's a one-liner in all of this, it's that if you're reading national news for a read on the actual Charleston market, you are reading the wrong newspaper. And sometimes what's true for Sullivan's and Somerville are going to be two very different things. So that's why I want to make sure you understand this is coming from, yes, the NAR nationally, but definitely our local Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. And I think that's important to highlight. I think the other big thing that's important to highlight is that when people ask me, Gentry, how's the market actually doing in Charleston? Usually what I echo is it's bifurcated, right? There's a tale of two economies. You probably have heard of the K-shaped economy. I think that's sort of living out in real time in Charleston. And let's talk about why. Days on market ticked up regionally to 48 days on market. You guys probably remember, not that long ago, multiple offers, crazy. Days on market were almost like 10 days or under, which was just insane, right? Money was cheap and a lot of people were bum rushing to move to Charleston. While closings are actually up 25%, and those things might look contradictory, they're not. I think it reinforces the thing that a lot of you, if we've been meeting, talking about potentially selling your home or maybe going out and potentially buying a home, I think what we're actually seeing in real time is that well-priced, well-prepared homes and ones that are not horribly overpriced, they fly. They move. People are eager for homes in great areas and great neighborhoods that are turnkey. But the overpriced ones, the ones who go, let's put 10, 20% on top of comps, they sit because people are doing math again. And to some degree, I think the middle of all of this is sort of disappearing. The regional average price is actually up 3.9% year over year, while the median only grew 0.6%. So the average is being pulled up by some of those luxury trades that I was just talking about. And that I think that truly means that wealth is arriving at the top of the market and continuing to arrive. And some of you who might be in great neighborhoods and have a ton of equity are taking some of that equity and putting it into a nicer home. But the struggle is those that have maybe not existed in Charleston or maybe never purchased a home before and are just trying to get in. They don't have a lot of that equity. And during a time when inflation and the cost of other things is going up, that's where we're seeing some of that bifurcation. So I don't think this is a necessarily like a 2021 rising tide lifts all boats type of scenario. This is a market that is very much rewarding pricing homes properly and prepping it properly. Now, we've taken a look at this. I'm going to include this link in the email, so if you want to go through the whole regional report, you certainly can. But let's talk through some of the 8 submarkets and generally where things are landing for each. Starting where else but downtown Charleston. So let's take a quick look at downtown. Apologies for those of you looking at home. I got to zoom that out for a second so you can actually see it. And I think the general read is that ultra luxury, especially downtown in pockets like South of Broad, is absolutely on fire. Year to date, median single family is up 45.5% to 2.55 million. And the June median is 2.64 million versus 1.15 a year ago. I think those numbers are quite telling. And I think the general read is that wealth, specifically on the peninsula, is very much showing up. It's very much Charleston specific, as many coastal elite towns continue to see that drive. I mean, there's definitely been a couple of headline sales over the course of this year. You know, maybe a Treasury Secretary trading one on Rainbow Row had something to do with that. But there have been some truly historic high-end sales in the upper teens and lower 20 million, which just Charleston, unless you were selling a massive tract of land, never saw before for single-family homes downtown. So I think that's very telling for downtown specifically. You can see some of the metrics around townhouses and condos somewhat differ, but downtown continues, especially at the luxury level, to truly remain strong. Now let's skip over to another lovely pocket of the luxury world, Isle of Palms. Isle of Palms, I would say generally the headline is that the $3+ million trades, sorry, I'll zoom out one more time, are continuing to happen, but they're slower and they're a bit harder to negotiate. People are coming to the table after inspection looking for concessions. They're not just accepting the fact that, you know, your prime years of rent rolls from 2020 through 2020 are necessarily going to be the rule moving forward. And if, you know, you've neglected the pool and the decking and the whatever, they're going to be coming and asking for concessions because, again, the math has to math at this point. So I think the numbers to focus on, the June median of 3.23 million, which is up 35% year over year, while days on market are at 74 versus last year being at 32. So sellers are receiving about 88.6% of original list price year over year for the month of June. So I would say generally my read is Isle of Palms is where you'll see the biggest negotiation gap this year, at least what we've seen so far. I think Folly Beach, you'll see some of that too. And I think sellers who are leading with real numbers are trading, and sellers who are, you know, listing with wishful thinking are sitting. And again, I think that really goes back to the fact that people are now forcibly doing math again. It's not to say that there are destitute and desperate sellers. I think there's just a lot of sellers out there who have said, this is my make me sell right, which is normal for a lot of these heavy rental, vacation rental areas where typically, if you're going to list in spring, you'll likely say, well, hey, I've got 3-4 months worth of robust rental income. I've got the family coming in from Ohio who's giving me an absolute premium for the 4th of July. And I'm not in a mood to necessarily watch all that income go out the door at discount. So the ones that are trading are clearly trading at a bit of a discount. Year to date, you've got about 93%. So still a pretty big delta between ask and actual final bid. Let's skip over to another pocket of the world, which is West Ashley, where volume is up, buyers are certainly pickier, and there's longer days on market. Let's look at the quick numbers. The numbers for closings this year is up actually 30% year over year, and the median is 584,000. Now this comprises the entirety of the West Ashley area, so both inside 526 and outside 526, which I would say materially offer different lifestyles and sort of different products of homes. But that the median is essentially flat. So what we see in the inner pockets of very desirable community, the Crescent, Windermere, you know, this stretch of inner West Ashley, very close proximity to downtown, some that have proximity to the water, Greenway, etc. That submarket of West Ashley is actually outperforming, while the outskirts of West Ashley, where there's maybe higher volume of inventory, and certainly the sub $600,000 price point where maybe some of those homes need work, that has essentially dragged down. So you kind of have this evening because West Ashley is such a large area. But I would say my overall read is that West Ashley buyers are back, truly, but they are shopping. So if you're selling in West Ashley, again, the theme is you prep it, you price it right, and you typically win on market. And I think the folks that are doing the let's list it high and see what happens strategy tend to get pulled down. I mean, it's not quite the gap you've seen from maybe other submarkets in terms of ask to bid, but there's certainly some price compression. But then again, we see it time and time again in great neighborhoods where the property is in great condition. The folks that have priced right often end up with multiple offers. So now let's maybe scoot up to a different portion of town. Let's go over to Daniel Island and take a look at how that market's performing this year. I would say overall, Daniel Island is hot just about every segment. So single family closings year over year are up 73%, with the median being 1.96 million. Townhouse and condo closings are up 187%, with the median being 1.03. So I'd say the general read on Daniel Island is probably the most balanced of a hot market in the region right now, with every segment for the most part moving. I think those of you familiar with Daniel Island certainly know it for typically very turnkey properties, whether it's condo, townhouse, or single family, offering a variety of lifestyles, but definitely skew to the luxury end. And, you know, parts of the island very, very family forward with close proximity to schools. And I think as the last little bits of Daniel Island have been developed out at the retreat, I mean, those luxury sales are certainly continuing to press the median higher and higher. Let's go over to Lower Mount Pleasant, or what we call South Mount Pleasant, anything south of the Isle of Palms connector, which is generally trading fairly healthy right now, especially at the 1 million and up range. While prices are up and inventory's tight, the numbers in June, the median was 1.4 million, which was up 17% year over year, and year to date up 7.9%, while inventory has been down 4.4%. And I would say my general read on Lower Mount Pleasant, which is always a desirable pocket of owned in Lower Mount P since 2020, your equity position has likely changed materially, which is probably worth about 15 minutes on the phone with yours truly. And then skipping just down, or I guess up 17, because we're heading north, let's take a look at Upper Mount Pleasant or North Mount Pleasant, what the local market is doing there, where volume is certainly up. I would say prices are a bit flatter, although inventory continues to be tight. The number of closed sales on the year is up 23% year over year, while inventory is down 17.5%. So my general thoughts read on Upper Mount Pleasant is that the value story inside Mount Pleasant right now is that if you're a buyer priced out of Lower Mount P, Upper's where you're likelier to find some friendlier pricing and possibly a slightly better deal. But I think the robust amount of folks that still continue to move into the Lowcountry, specifically for things like wanting to be in a certain school district, you know, Mount Pleasant's always going to be that draw, which is why we continue to see even in. So what does this all mean for you who might be watching? Look, if you're looking to sell anytime soon, this tends to be the time of the year as we get into the dog days of summer and into fall, where inventory does tend to swell slightly. Or some of you that might have been unsuccessful with the sale start delisting and pulling off, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But those of you that are serious about selling soon, be prepared to prep the home and price it right if you want to move. Otherwise, we can talk about what looking at listing in private exclusive might mean for you and what those advantages might be as we roll into fall and our most active spring market. Charleston, while not necessarily as seasonal as places like the Northeast, you certainly see, especially in family-heavy communities where the kids might be out of school for, say, spring break or summer break, that's when a lot of moves start to happen. So that's what we want to prep for buyers. Housing affordability has ticked up 2.7% year over year. And while rates really haven't moved much, if you've been waiting for the right moment, the summer window tends to be a pretty good shot while inventory starts to swell a little, and especially those that might have been sitting on market might start becoming more negotiable on price, concessions, etc. And then for past clients, anyone with equity in your home, your equity number is probably not where you last checked it. So whether you're thinking about like a refinance or taking out a HELOC or moving up, man, we would just hate you guys moving up. I think it's obviously worth a 15-minute phone call with yours truly, or we can get on a Google Meet. We can kind of share where your equity is at and maybe how we can position you moving forward. So anyway, for those of you that have tuned in through the whole thing, I sincerely thank you. But if you need anything real estate related, of course, reply to this. Call, text, email, always there and ready to rock for you. I think the biggest and most exciting thing for those of you that do own homes that we can offer now, as opposed to years past, is our 3-phase marketing through Compass, specifically through listing private exclusive. And if that sounds like Greek and gibberish to you, well, you have a good excuse to call, text, or email me here. Otherwise, this has been your mid-year read on the Charleston real estate market and what that might mean for you, whether you're in Mount Pleasant, Johns Island, or anywhere between. I hope you guys are staying cool. Your HVAC units are still running because it has been hot and humid. But if I haven't seen you yet this year, I hope I get to see you soon. And I hope wherever you're at, that you, your friends, your family are having a happy, healthy, and safe year. All right, take care. Bye.